evidence. But principles don't reward impatience. Principles reward consistency. Imagine placing one drop of water onto a stone. Nothing happens, another drop, still nothing. 1,000 drops, the stone appears unchanged. 10,000 drops later, the stone begins carrying the signature of persistence. Not because water became stronger, because consistency defeated resistance. Your character forms exactly like that. Your confidence develops exactly like that. Your discipline grows exactly like that. Not through intensity, through repetition. Let me ask you something. If someone handed you $1 million today, would your life change? Of course. But only temporarily if your principles remain the same. Because money amplifies character. It doesn't replace it. A person without discipline simply finds larger ways to become distracted. A person without wisdom simply makes more expensive mistakes. A person without purpose simply feels emptier inside a larger house. That's why changing circumstances before changing yourself is like repainting a cracked foundation. The color changes, the structure doesn't. Here's what most people don't understand. You are not building a successful life. You're building the person capable of creating one. Those are different projects. Everyone wants the results. Very few are willing to become the person those results require. There was a young woman who dreamed of becoming an architect. She carried sketchbooks everywhere. Beautiful ideas. Wonderful imagination. Years passed. Nothing happened. Not because she lacked talent, because every evening she waited until she felt inspired. Sometimes inspiration visited. Most days it didn't. One afternoon she met an elderly builder. His hands were rough. His clothes carried dust from decades of construction. He looked at her drawings and smiled. Then he asked one question. Do you build when inspiration arrives, or do you build until inspiration arrives? Everything changed. She stopped waiting. Every morning, she worked, whether she felt creative or not, whether she felt confident or not, whether anyone believed in her or not. Years later, people admired her success. They called her gifted. They called her fortunate. They never saw the mornings when motivation never showed up, but commitment did. Think about this. The bridge between dreams and reality is rarely excitement. It is responsibility. Because excitement is emotional. Responsibility is intentional. One disappears with your mood. The other survives your mood. That's why principles matter. Your feelings change. Your principles guide you anyway. You don't need to feel disciplined to act with discipline. You don't need to feel courageous to take courageous action. You don't need confidence before beginning. Confidence often arrives because you began, not before life has an unusual way of rewarding movement. Imagine standing at the bottom of a mountain before sunrise. Everything is dark. You can only see a few steps ahead. If you refuse to move until you can see the entire path, you'll stand there forever. But if you trust those first few visible steps, the path keeps revealing itself. Life doesn't usually illuminate the whole journey. It illuminates enough for the next decision. That requires faith, not necessarily religious faith. Faith in growth, faith in effort. Faith that today's invisible investment becomes tomorrow's visible reality. I remember meeting an old gardener who never hurried. People wondered why his garden looked so alive, flowers everywhere. Healthy trees, fruit hanging from branches, children loved visiting. Someone asked him his secret. He laughed. There isn't one. Then he pointed toward a tiny seed. You call this small. Nature calls it enough. Those words stayed with me because we spend our lives calling our efforts too small. One page, one workout, one conversation, one apology, one lesson, $1 saved. One decision, too small, nature disagrees. Nature says, keep planting, because harvests don't appear after planting one seed. They appear after honoring the principle. That's where many lives quietly fall apart. People abandon principles because they don't see immediate harvests. Imagine digging a well. Day after day you hit dry soil. Your hands ache, friends laugh. You've wasted enough time. So you stop on Moon to you. Water waited 3 feet below. How many dreams have ended 3 feet before breakthrough? How many businesses closed 1 season too early? How many marriages could have healed through one more honest conversation? How many books remained unwritten because their authors confused temporary frustration with permanent failure? Here's what most people don't understand. Unwritten because their authors confused temporary frustration with permanent failure. Here's what most people don't understand. Pain speaks loudly, progress whispers. When you're becoming stronger, you rarely feel stronger. When you're becoming wiser, you rarely notice wisdom growing. Growth often disguises itself as inconvenience. That's why ordinary people quit. They mistake the discomfort of development for evidence they're on the wrong path.
Hey, how you doing?
Soar. The student feels overwhelmed, the entrepreneur feels uncertain, the parent feels exhausted, the artist feels misunderstood. And because discomfort arrives, they assume they're failing. No, sometimes discomfort is simply proof you're expanding beyond yesterday's identity. A butterfly will probably describe transformation as destruction. Everything familiar disappears. The old form dissolves. Nothing feels stable. Imagine leaving the cocoon halfway through because change became uncomfortable. You never discover the wings waiting on the other side. Many people abandon personal growth exactly there. Not because transformation isn't happening. Because transformation doesn't always feel beautiful while it's happening. Let me tell you another principle. Protect your attention as if your future depends on it. Because it does. Attention is becoming one of the rarest resources in the modern world. Everyone wants a piece of it. Advertisements, notifications, opinions, argument, breaking news, entertainment, comparison, fear. Someone's always trying to rent space inside your mind. The question is, who owns your thoughts?
What area?
Imagine your mind as a magnificent garden. Every
It's
conversation
actually
plants something.
Still around the
Every
same
book plants
area.
something.
Still around the same
Every
area.
video plants something.
Still
around-
Every friendship
same area.
plants something.
Yeah.
Now imagine allowing strangers to scatter
always nice.
random seeds across your
Change
yard
is always
every single
good.
day.
It's definitely gonna be an upgrade from the house we're currently
Of
in.
course not. Yet people do exactly that with their minds. Then wonder why peace feels so
So
difficult
y'all
to find.
packing right now.
I once
Oh,
watched an
yeah.
old violin maker work in complete silence. Hours passed, no
Getting it
music,
from going,
only careful hands,
getting rid of the
every
old.
movement, intention. Someone asked him why he never rushed.
Especially since I have this one recliner that's it's leather, and there's already due to how many times it's set in it, that it's already falling apart. It's yeah, we need some new furniture before we go to the new house.
Principles teach you to think beyond today. That's maturity. Children ask, what do I want now? Wisdom asks, what kind of life am I creating? Those questions produce completely different futures. Think
I
about this.
sometimes love shopping on
Every
Facebook
action casts two
Marketplace.
shadows. One appears immediately, the other appears years later.
It's a
Being healthy today may feel
People getting
inconvenient
into
now.
stuff that they really
The
bought
second
brand
shadow
new.
might
They
be
just
energy
realize,
20 years from now. Learning a new skill today.
Sometimes you'll
may
find
seem
stuff
slow.
where
The second shadow
actually
may
this
be
applies to
more
just about
opportunity
any
than
online art, because you can find things people don't even know what the value of. And that's why some people go and dive into Goodwill.
Could become a lifelong friendship.
that's my favorite store in the whole wide world.
So really funny is because I remember there's this one dude on YouTube that'll go around, he'll start refurbishing and repairing Xbox 360s and stuff he finds at Goodwill to see what people left behind on there. Sometimes I'll just find weird shit on what are you doing putting this on a PS3?
The father simply smiled and kept looking. Weeks became months.
I know you're using this for anything but gaming.
Years.
Right.
Bicycles improved. Then something unexpected happened. The boy began repairing things that had nothing to do with bicycles. Broken fences, old furniture, neighbors' tools. One day he said something remarkable.
The point of being able to refind and sell it is really good.
His father nodded
Oh,
quietly
yeah.
because the lessons had never been about bicycles. It had been about identity. That's another principle. You become what you repeatedly practice, not what you occasionally admire, not what you post online, not what you promise every.
I actually remember, like,
You become what your ordinary Tuesdays reveal.
when it comes down to Facebook Marketplace, I think it was either Facebook Marketplace or Opera. Like, this one dude talking about his experience, like, he's trying to sell a console, and the thing is, it went wrong very quick because he saw that the guy that was buying had a gun with him.
Use what you have.
And he's like, oh no, I gotta get robbed hard.
Becoming from this very moment because perfection has delayed more dreams than failure ever has. And once you understand
So
that,
at that point, he's just like, yeah, no, I'm not doing this again.
one that changes the way you look at every setback.
That guy would go on to start his own, like, t-shirt selling
you
business.
spent years trying to avoid were quietly teaching you the very principles your future will one day depend on.
Funniest thing that I've learned, well, more so like the ways people do it,
The opportunities that disappear,
is like,
the mornings you question
one
your
of the biggest scams is when you find some of those, people that want you to buy a course on how to start a successful business. Because most of the time, the people that do those are already rich in the first place.
And that's where something
Well, it's even funnier is when there's people out there that do that, but they fake being rich.
who learns to see difficulty as a classroom instead of a prison.
Just need to go and rent a mansion out for a day, and then pretend that I have a bathhouse by buying a kiddie pool, and then getting some camera equipment to make it look like I'm like laying in like one of those bathhouses that have like flowers and stuff.
And the choice between the two is rarely made in one dramatic moment. It is made
So
quietly.
they really be people out here that really be selling good courses.
You wake up and something doesn't go according to plan.
I think the funny part is that the people that put out good courses are usually ones that like
Maybe you
give
gave
out
everything you had and
they're
still
like
didn't receive
10-hour free versions
Yeah.
out on
Now
YouTube.
you stand at a crossroads
Yep,
that no one
you
else
gotta
can
pay
see.
attention.
One road whispers,
That's what I be in here doing. That's why I listen to what I listen to.
the other whispers,
I be paying
this is part of
attention
becoming.
instead of my money.
From the outside,
Well,
those two people,
that's
they
the
look
funny part, like,
exactly the same.
You can find someone out there that does all this stuff for free. Meanwhile, there's like
Here's
other
what
people
most
out
people
there
don't
that are
understand.
like, hey, you be just as
Your
rich as
greatest
I am.
battles are
You just need
rarely
to,
fought against
pay
other people.
like $200 a week for my
The
course.
stories you keep telling yourself.
It's
Think
like, it
about
sounds like
this
a
for a
pyramid
moment.
scheme.
Imagine two bricklayers working on the same building. Someone asks the first
And
man,
half the
"What do you
advice
do?"
you're giving is just general life advice.
I'm stacking bricks. The second man is asked the exact same question.
And you start listening to people.
I'm building a place where families will create memories for generations. Same
Get a
bricks,
book. Read
same
it.
weather, same
Yeah,
tools,
exactly.
completely different meaning.
And
Meaning
you have that one
changes
guy who
endurance. When
there's a
your
book
work
that
has
says How to
meaning,
Get $1 Million, and
your
then inside
strength
the book it says
expands.
write a book
Your
called How to Get $1
sacrifices
Million.
increase. Your patience grows deeper. When your vision becomes clear, temporary inconvenience loses much of its power. That is why principles begin with the way you see life before they ever change the way you live it.
Like
I once heard about a craftsman
last time I got my haircut here, I remember talking about like how people can start off small and get something like absolutely huge. Recently, there's this game that came out, and I actually haven't been playing the hell out
No
of
one
it.
will ever notice.
This game that came out is called Cow World, and the whole thing about it is that you're surviving on an island, like, you remember something like Pokemon, right? The thing is that, imagine you wake up on an island trying to survive, but there's all these Pokemon like creatures there. That's basically the whole deal of Power World. But the thing is that, like, this game was started by a small team of like 4 guys in Japan. Yeah. And then it kind of slowly grew a little bit because as those four guys were trying to figure out like how to get someone to help them do animations for their game. Next thing you know, they find like a part-timer that was like working at a convenience store, who apparently did this stuff for a hobby, and they're like, "Hey, you want to work on our game?" And he's just like, "Sure." That game comes out in early access 2 years ago, and it ended up getting 2 million players and a bunch of sales. Like we're talking about, I mean, like those 2 million players were also 2 million sales. And of course, because of the how successful that was, Nintendo decided to try and sue them. And normally this would be where the story ends, because it's like a massive company. You know, Nintendo probably like rivaling of not being almost bigger than Disney. And, you know, this is normally where it ends, but apparently, but no, they actually they won the lawsuit, and Nintendo lost the lawsuit. It was a $40 million lawsuit. And so this small company just beat out one of the biggest game companies in the world. But the most interesting thing is that while this is going on, they expanded on the game and made it like much more different than it was on release, in like the best way possible. And the company also expanded. We're going from like 4 guys in a convenience store part-timer to like I think it's about 100 employees. And they put out their release actually about a week ago, full release of the game. And that it's like it's not too really in like was before, but it's still close to a million. It's having like a consistent like 850,000 players on Steam.
Doesn't notice each new
It's like
forming inside.
these guys, it started from.
The athlete doesn't feel every muscle adapting. The entrepreneur doesn't immediately recognize every lesson hidden inside every challenge. Growth often happens in silence before it appears in public. That should encourage you, because maybe the changes you've been hoping for are already beginning beneath the surface. Maybe your patience has grown more than you realize. Maybe your thinking has become wiser than it was a year ago.
Oh, that's fine.
Maybe your ability to remain calm in situations that once overwhelmed you.
Like these guys start earning for just like 5 guys, and now like they made a massive like success from this game.
Itself. One day you respond differently to criticism. One day you recover faster from disappointment. One day you notice that fear no longer controls the same decisions. Those moments seem small, but they reveal that your identity has begun to change. And
you have all these like Pokemon-like creatures.
Not with goals.
And it's funny is that a couple of them you can give them guns. Yeah, I want you to imagine you have this like cute little squirrel, and then you give it an AK.
Doesn't need constant motivation to read.
And then as why when the CEO was asked CEO was asked like why guns are included in the game, he's just like, oh, because Americans like to shoot things.
Changes more than changing your schedule ever could. I remember speaking with an elderly teacher who had spent decades helping struggling students. Someone asked her, "How do you help children believe in themselves?" She smiled thoughtfully before answering. "I don't begin by telling them they're extraordinary. I begin by helping them keep one small promise to themselves." One small promise. Think about that. Not 10 promises.
It's just funny though, like some of these success stories just come from the most unlikely of places.
Write one chapter. Walk 1 mile. Wake up when you said you would. Finish what you started. Speak kindly. Shows up again tomorrow. Because every kept promise quietly introduces you to a new version of yourself. Every broken promise teaches the opposite lesson. That's why confidence isn't built by positive thinking alone. Confidence grows when your actions repeatedly prove your
Well,
words can be
sometimes it's
trusted.
also interesting just to see like
Imagine hiring someone
people
who
succeed
constantly made promises
when they're
they never
a little bit older
Eventually, your trust
in the
will
field
disappear.
where most successful people are young.
To yourself for years. I'll start Monday. I'll exercise tomorrow. I'll save
I got
next
one
month.
guy who makes a successful series is like 27 and not like, you know, some young up and comer.
Confidence feels distant. Confidence isn't always missing. Sometimes
Mhm.
trust has simply been neglected. And trust can be rebuilt. One honest action at a time. One completed commitment at a time. One disciplined day at a time.
Oh
Let
yeah.
me tell you another principle that quietly changes everything. Guard your environment. Not because the world is full of bad people, because environments are powerful teachers. Plant a seed in fertile soil, and its chances improve. Plant the same seed on dry concrete, and potential struggles before it even begins. Human beings are remarkably similar. The conversations surrounding you shape your thinking. The expectations surrounding you shape your effort. The standards surrounding you shape your habits. Spend enough time around people who constantly look for excuses. And excuses begin sounding reasonable. Spend enough time around people who pursue growth. And growth begins feeling normal. That's why wisdom sometimes requires changing your surroundings before changing your circumstances. There was once a young man who wanted to become healthier. He bought exercise equipment. He made detailed plans. He watched educational videos. Yet every evening he found himself sitting in the same chair, eating the same food, following the same routine. Finally, an older friend visited his home. He looked around quietly. The television dominated the room, snacks covered the table. Exercise equipment was hidden in a closet. The friend didn't criticize him. He simply smiled and said, "Your environment is voting against your intentions." What an insightful observation. Your surroundings either reduce resistance or increase it. If wisdom is difficult to reach, but distraction is always within arm's length, which one usually wins? Not because you're weak, because environments influence behavior more than we often admit. Small changes matter. Books within reach, healthy choices visible, a notebook beside your bed, a quiet corner where reflection becomes natural. Little adjustments create remarkable momentum over time. Think about a river. It doesn't carve valleys because it's the strongest force in nature. It carves valleys because it keeps flowing in the same direction. Consistency shapes landscapes. Imagine what it can shape inside a human life. Here's something I have noticed over the years. Many people spend enormous energy trying to appear successful. Far fewer invest that same energy becoming successful. Those are different pursuits. One seeks admiration. The other seeks transformation. Admiration fades quickly. Transformation continues, working long after the applause disappears. Suppose someone hands you a magnificent unexpected opportunity. They remind you who you are when emotions become loud. Because emotions are valuable
That
teachers.
would be just a random stranger.
Really?
Yes.
Every feeling to determine every decision. Your direction changes with every passing wind. A sailor understands something important. The wind cannot always be controlled.
That's good.
The sails can.
Yeah.
Sure.
Life works much the same way. Circumstances arrive unexpectedly, Responses remain your responsibility. And once a person truly understands that distinction,
Do you
something
see something that you want me to
begins
do?
to happen.
Nah, I'm just trying to make sure.
Complaining slowly loses its
Yeah,
attraction.
Yeah,
Blaming
sure.
becomes exhausting. Waiting feels less satisfying than acting. You begin asking different questions. Not, why is this happening to me? But, what is this moment
Funny thing,
inviting me to become?
like
That single shift changes
with
everything.
the
Because
ringtone I
every
have,
challenge now carries
it's kind of interesting. The guys who did the song that's on there, they ended up
to strengthen patience.
deciding for Japan. They actually managed to
I remember hearing about
have a couple songs that reached a lot of global appeal. One of which was actually
every sound was slightly
managed to be so popular it outsold Taylor Swift.
Visitor
Yeah.
asked him why he never rushed his repairs. The old man picked up a tiny spring
Hey, keep me on.
and quietly said, people think the hands move the clock. They don't. The smallest hidden
Are you
pieces
doing the thing?
measured well.
After you finish, can you come in and put some water in your skin for me?
He was talking about life. The conversations nobody hears. The choices nobody applauds. The disciplines nobody notices. Those hidden pieces are quietly measuring the direction of your future.
Alright.
And once you begin respecting those invisible moments, you start discovering that real change is not waiting for some extraordinary event to arrive from the outside. It has already begun the moment you decide that every ordinary day deserves extraordinary attention. Because from that point forward, you stop asking whether today's effort is big enough, and you begin asking a far more powerful question. If I become just a little wiser today than I was yesterday, what kind of person will I become after 100 ordinary days? Not 100 perfect days. Not 100 easy days. 100 ordinary days where you simply refuse to stop becoming. Think about that. We often imagine that life is transformed by extraordinary moments. Yet most of our lives are not lived in extraordinary moments. They are lived in ordinary mornings. Ordinary conversations, ordinary decisions, ordinary responses. And that is exactly where your future is being written. Let me tell you a story. There was an elderly woman who lived in a small village. Every morning before sunrise, she walked the same path carrying 2 empty buckets suspended from a wooden pole across her shoulders. One bucket was perfectly made. The other had a small crack. Every day, by the time she reached home, the cracked bucket had lost nearly half its water. For years, the cracked bucket felt ashamed. One morning, if that bucket could have spoken, it might have said, I've failed you every single day. But the woman smiled. She pointed to one side of the road. Wildflowers, hundreds of them, bright colors stretching along the path. Then she pointed to the other side. Dry earth, nothing growing. She quietly explained. I knew about your crack years ago, so I planted seeds only on your side of the road. Now think about that for a moment. The very thing that looked like weakness had been creating beauty all along. How many people spend their lives trying to hide every imperfection? How many gifts remain buried because someone believed they had to become flawless before becoming useful? Here's what most people don't understand. Your imperfections do not automatically disqualify you. Ignoring them might, refusing to learn from them might, allowing them to become excuses certainly will, but acknowledging them honestly, growing through them intentionally, that creates wisdom.
Thank you for
There's
gracing me
something
with your
profoundly
presence.
attractive
Thank you
about a
for
person who
always
has
doing a
faced their
great
own
job in my
weaknesses
hair.
Oh, thank you. Do we have anything else?
to define
No,
their
no.
identity. Because such people carry humility. And humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is seeing yourself clearly enough to keep growing. I learned something from watching skilled blacksmiths. Every strand of hammer appears mild. Metal glows with intense heat. Sparks fly in every direction. Someone unfamiliar with the process might think the metal is being destroyed. It isn't. It is being shaped. The hammer is not the enemy. The hammer is revealing what the metal can become. Life sometimes feels like that. Pressure. Unexpected changes. Responsibilities arriving before you feel ready. Criticism that stings. Moments that stretch your patience. At first you ask, why is this happening? Then, if you remain teachable, another question slowly replaces it. What quality is this moment trying to strengthen? Perhaps patience, perhaps courage, perhaps resilience, perhaps compassion, perhaps wisdom. The challenge itself may not be the lesson. Your response almost certainly is. Imagine two trees standing side by side before a powerful storm. The first tree has spent years protected inside a greenhouse, perfect conditions, no strong winds, no harsh weather. The second tree has grown in open fields. It has bit with countless storms. Its roots have learned to reach deeper. When the strongest wind finally arrives, which tree remains standing? Not necessarily the tallest, not necessarily the most beautiful, the one whose roots have been strengthened through resistance. People often pray for strength, yet strength rarely develops without resistance. It's similar to learning a language. Reading one page feels insignificant. Practicing one conversation feels awkward. Mispronouncing words feels embarrassing. Yet one day you suddenly realize you're thinking in that language. The change seems sudden. It isn't. It has been quietly accumulating beneath your awareness. Growth loves accumulation. We celebrate breakthroughs because they're visible. Life celebrates preparation because it's essential. Here's another principle that quietly changes everything. Stop negotiating with the promises you've already made. Think about how many conversations take place inside your own mind every day. The alarm rings. I'll get up in 5 minutes. The book sits on the table. I'll read later. The difficult phone call waits. Tomorrow feels better. Notice something. Very rarely are those conversations about ability. They're about negotiation. Every unnecessary negotiation consumes energy. Imagine a pilot flying across an ocean who keeps changing direction every 10 minutes. A little left, a little right, then back again. Eventually, even small changes lead to an entirely different destination. Your daily negotiations working exactly the same way. Every delay seems tiny. Every excuse appears reasonable. Every compromise feels harmless. Until years later, you discover that your